physical insulin. It stores the glucose in my fat, in my muscles, in my liver.
Yeah.
How does that have an impact then on weight gain and weight loss? So if I've just had a glucose spike, insulin's been deployed.
Yeah.
She's doing her work. She's storing it in all those places. Does that impact my ability to gain and lose weight?
Absolutely. So when there's a lot of insulin around, when she's around, she's like, okay, everybody, stop. We're only going to be putting stuff into fat cells. Nothing can come out of fat cells. So when there's high insulin levels, your fat cells become like a one-way street. Things can go in to make them grow in size and quantity. So that's one of the ways you gain fat on your body, and nothing can come out. And when people say like, I want to lose fat on my body, what they're really saying is, I want to empty my fat cells so that, my waist size reduces at the same time. So yes, the more insulin, the harder it is to actually lose any fat.
I get it. I think I get it now. Is there anything that's like missing from that picture you've painted for me? I now understand the relationship between what I put in my mouth, the impact that has on my glucose levels. It causes spikes and dips. That causes a bunch of short and long-term consequences because of what's going on in my mitochondria and insulin. Is there a next step in that process that I need to be aware of? So my insulin is now raised, right?
Yeah.
She's shut down my fat cells. She's doing her thing. She's storing it away. Is it the chronic deployment of insulin is what I think they call type 2 diabetes, right?
Yeah, it's called insulin resistance. So when you have a lot of insulin, it's a bit like...
Stops working, basically.
Exactly. It's like coffee.
Right.
Like first time you drink coffee, you're like, whoa! And then over time, the same amount of coffee doesn't do as much to you. Same with insulin. So over time, your body becomes less sensitive to it. It doesn't really obey it anymore very well. And that's called insulin resistance. And that then leads to type 2 diabetes. But I think you got a pretty good overview of, we eat food, creates glucose spikes, all of these biochemical processes. Then our body experiences these symptoms, right? We experience these symptoms of glucose spikes. And I think the important thing to remember is that these symptoms, again, they're messages, right? They're not something that's happening randomly just to be annoying. Your body is not against you. Your body is just trying to keep you alive. But as a consequence of maybe some of the ways you're eating, all these symptoms are taking place.
If this glucose roller coaster is bad for me,
yeah,
the spikes and the crashes, how does one flatten the glucose curve? In your book, you talk about these 10 hacks.
Yeah.
Can we go through some of these hacks to...
But for sure, I think that's the most important, really, because...
So hack one.
Hack one, yeah.
Eat food in the right order.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
So to give some context, like all the hacks in my books, they are just summaries of scientific studies. So when I was going really deep into all the science, I found, all these symptoms and conditions linked to spikes. And I found also these amazing ways we could still eat everything we loved, but without creating these spikes, right? So still eating everything you love, but reducing any symptoms or any problems you might be having physically or mentally. Okay, so eat your food in the right order. So next time you're faced with a meal, listeners, next time you're faced with a meal, there's something amazing that you should know. If you eat the ingredients in the meal in a specific order, you can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by up to 75% without changing how much you're eating, what you're eating. Just the order has a massive impact on your glucose. So you can still eat the same meal with way less spikes and way less consequences. So the right order is veggies first. I should make a t-shirt. Veggies first, proteins and fats second, and starches and sugars last. So let's take an example of a meal maybe. Stephen, what's a typical meal you have? And then we'll add stuff for the example.
Cookies. Okay,
so let's say cookies. That's your sugars. Let's say you're having cookies. Let's say, I don't know, you eat fish?
Yeah.
Okay,
I eat everything, to be honest. I'm so, other than snails, I've still got a little bit of a psychological issue there, but...
I've never tried snails, and I'm French.
Really?
It just grosses me out.
That's something you need to figure out.
Okay, so let's say you have like some fish, some broccoli, some pasta, some olive oil and avocado, and a cookie. So the right order for your glucose levels is going to be the broccoli first, then the fish, then the pasta and the cookie. And the avocado and olive oil, you can kind of have it like with the fish. Now, this is an interesting like theoretical thing to understand. It might not always be very practical to just separate out your meal and be like, okay, this first, that then, that then. But there's a few things you should know. Number one, you don't actually have to wait between any of these foods. You can just eat them one after the other and still get the amazing impact on your glucose levels. And number two, really the most important thing here that we need to learn from this scientific study is that the veggies should come first. So what I do now and what my community does is that we always have a veggie starter at the beginning of a meal, and then we just eat the rest of the meal kind of normally. And that already has a massive impact